Hi, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to today's WER webinar. I'm Lee Meagle. I'm the editor-in-chief here at the WER, and I'll be moderating today's session, which is called Increase Profits by Selling Web Application Security as a Service. It's going to include a few panelists today. That's Andy Mahler, Director of Business Development at Applicure Technologies, Stacy Griggs, who is Vice President of Sales at MaximumASP, Raviv Raz, who is Senior Product Manager at Applicure, and Brian Reboyne, who is Vice President of Operations at Hosting.com. So each of these guys will have a chance to introduce themselves a little better. And I'll hand things over to Andy pretty shortly so we can get started. But before I do, I just want to give everyone a rough idea of what we're going to go through today. Andy's going to give everyone a bit of information on Applicure. So he'll tell you how DotDefender, which is Applicure's security product, works for application security among hosting providers. Stacy's going to talk about how MaximumASP is using the technology. Raviv will give us a bit of a live demo of DotDefender and central management component. Brian will talk about the DotDefender deployment at Hosting.com. And Andy's going to give us some specifics about the sort of business model that hosts can use with application security right at the end. And then we're going to have some time set aside for a Q&A. You can feel free, though, to submit your questions throughout the presentation using the sort of submit question functions of the webinar software. And I'll keep an eye on the questions. And if anything really pertinent to what is being said at the time pops up, I'll try to find a polite point to interrupt, and I'll ask the questions while they're really relevant. And we can keep things really engaged that way. Finally, we're going to have a record of all the questions that are submitted during the session. So if you ask a question and it doesn't get answered right away or doesn't get answered during the session, you can feel pretty confident that somebody will get in touch with you right afterwards and follow up in sort of a one-on-one way. And of course, if you want to save your question and put it to the people privately, for whatever reason, you can also do that because we'll have everyone's contact information up at the end of the presentation. So with that, I'll turn things over to Andy, and I will. He's got some slides he's going to show you, so I'm just going to make him the presenter. And Andy, do you want to introduce yourself and sort of let people know about Applicure?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, I want to make sure that everybody can see my slides.
Yeah, it looks great.
There should be an Applicure slide up there. That's great. My name is Andy Mahler. I'm Director of Business Development for Applicure Technologies. Little introduction on Applicure. We were founded in 2004 by two gentlemen. One was with the Israeli government. He was with the cybersecurity department there. The other one was a hacker who reformed and decided to figure out how to protect against people like himself. And then we have one focus, and that's web application security. And we're headquartered in Israel, and Israel has become Security Central, known around the world as that because of all the security companies that are there, and also how they defend a lot of their attacks, both cyber attacks as well as other types of attacks. We opened offices in North America in 2007, and really with our focus being on providing DotDefender through channel sales and channel marketing. And one of those channels obviously being hosting companies, and we've been very successful with that. We've signed up quite a few partners, hosting partners, as well as we do have lots of customers and thousands of installs around the world. Why is web application security important? Well, as you can see from this slide from Gartner, about 75% of the attacks are done through tunneling through applications, and it's good security practice to augment what you have today in the form of network security and IDS and IPS systems with a web application firewall. Sorry. So going back to, so now you know why it's important to have that and what your customers are doing. This just kind of shows what you're providing and why your customers would definitely be interested in something like this, and why this is something that you could augment your current portfolio with an offering such as DotDefender. You know, you are offering server protection through physical security, network security, and content filtering. You're also providing business protection through business continuity, data backups, etc. the one thing you really don't have a lot of control over is the customer's applications. And if they're poorly written applications or they do have vulnerabilities, hackers will find those either through bots or spiders or anything along that lines and be able to get in those applications and exploit those. That's why your customers, they may not know. A lot of those types of attacks are stealth-like attacks. They may not know that they're getting attacked, and they may want to, you need to educate them on why they would need a web application firewall or web application security solution for them. The other reason your customers might be interested in obviously having a web application firewall is because of PCI compliance. I could sit here for another hour talking about PCI compliance, but there's a lot of sources out there on the web, and there's actually archived webinars out at the WER around this. But suffice it to say, Requirement 6 deals with application security, and specifically Requirement 6.6 deals with, that says you have to be compliant, you must have a web application firewall, or you do periodic code reviews. So again, there's a lot of information out there about PCI. Why is DotDefender, our product, a good solution made for hosting a security solution for you? I'm just going to hit some of the high points on this slide. You can read them. But wide platform support. We work with both Linux and Windows. We have a central management interface to make it easy to monitor and manage DotDefender. We have an extensive API for deep integration. We also support, of course, dedicated virtual, shared, and cloud environments. We're software. We sit on the web servers, and we have over 800 rules already in place. So within minutes, you can actually download, install, and be up and have that server protected from hacking attacks. And then on that, I really like this slide. It's a little busy, but as you take a look at it, you can see kind of the sampling of the different hacking attacks that we protect against, and what our security takes care of, and how it prevents against those types of attacks, either through pattern recognition or session protection or a knowledge base of signatures or actual upload inspection. We also have ways to foil hackers through different types of data masking and application masking and server masking. So that's just to give you a flavor of that. I know I just want to give you a quick overview of Applicure and DotDefender, and you're more than welcome to go to our website and also download DotDefender for a 30-day free trial. But with that, I want to turn it back over to Liam and let some of the other panelists give you their perspective on this.
Okay, thanks, Andy. I think the next person that we had planned to have speak was Stacy. Stacy's with MaximumASP, and Stacy actually was one of the panelists on our PCI webinar that we did a little while ago, so he's probably got some insight into that. Stacy, do you want to introduce yourself and fill us in on MaximumASP and how Applicure fits into what you're doing?
Absolutely. We're MaximumASP is a Windows web hosting firm. We do dedicated servers and cloud hosting, and we're a very new DotDefender partner, so new that we actually haven't even sent out a press release at this point. But DotDefender is, well, I probably should start one step further back. The code injection attacks and code vulnerabilities are somewhat of an enigma for hosting firms. Almost every hosting firm will say, we don't support your code. And when a customer has a code-based issue, it's on them to fix it. Unfortunately, many of the customers who have code-based issues don't necessarily believe a hosting firm when they say, it's a code-based issue or it's a code-based vulnerability. And even if we're not supporting their code, there are plenty of things that a code injection or some sort of code-based vulnerability can cause issues from a hosting perspective, like database restores or restoring to a last known good version of a backup. So you end up with a lot of support cost associated with customers that end up being compromised. So one of the key benefits for something like DotDefender is that you can tell clients, we believe that this is a code-based vulnerability, and we can actually prove it to you because we're going to recommend that you put a product on called DotDefender, and what we'll do is we've worked out a deal with DotDefender to give you a 30-day free trial, and if DotDefender solves your problem, then we'd like you to start paying for it, and if it doesn't solve your problem, then obviously it's not a code vulnerability. So that's one of the primary drivers for this is fixing what is a problematic issue within support. In addition to that, it gives you enhanced revenue because obviously you're charging clients a monthly recurring fee for us providing DotDefender to them, and on top of it, it reduces churn. In my career, I've seen a lot of clients that repeatedly get compromised, and they either leave because they don't understand, they want their hosting company, us, to fix their compromise, and that's obviously not something that a hosting company does. Or, they repeatedly get compromised and become such a burden on support that, you end up having a conversation with them that says you've got to fix your code or you've got to go somewhere else. So, having a third option, which is, being able to fix the client's code for them without actually getting in and digging the code or having a product that, solves the issue, ends up causing those clients that might have otherwise churned to stay with you. So it's really, from a product standpoint, I mean, not only does it increase revenue, but it reduces churn and it improves the customer's experience with you. So it's an absolute no-brainer from our perspective of something that we wanted to offer. Liam, I guess I can kick it back over to you and we can do a demo.
Yeah, actually, I have a question about that. So, beyond churn, I mean, what kind of technical problems can a host, or let's use you guys as an example. Have you experienced sort of technical problems that affect you as a result of a customer who is, let's say, repeatedly being hacked?
Yeah, we've actually got a customer we've been dealing with in the last couple of weeks that had, we've told him he's compromised, and he doesn't necessarily believe that he's compromised, and we've told him he needs to demo DotDefender, and we finally got him to agree to demo DotDefender on his server, but even though we weren't supporting this code, we ended up doing a number of database restores for him so that we could go back several days in time prior to his compromise. So there's a high support burden for A, dealing with the customer and explaining to them what's going on, and then B, actually helping them mitigate some of the impact of being compromised, but not necessarily the compromise itself.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. I guess in an environment where I get the sense that you were saying that was sort of like a dedicated server type customer. Now, I'm not actually very familiar with how small-scale DotDefender is designed to protect, or as a product from a hosting standpoint, how applicable it would be to somebody who's paying $10 or $12 a month for shared hosting. But would those kind of hack attacks potentially cause bigger problems if they weren't on an isolated server belonging to a single customer?
Well, you can. I mean, our environment's a little different than a lot of hosts. I mean, our minimum plan starts at close to $50. We have cloud servers, cloud sites, and then dedicated servers. So we don't have a classic shared approach or a classic shared plan. But DotDefender can be installed on any of a number of different operating modalities, and and I'll refer back to Andy, but I believe you can install it on shared and then work out some sort of licensing model to do that. Although it's not something that we've done at MaximumASP.
Cool. Well, I guess we'll get Andy to touch on that near the end. Okay, so thanks very much, Stacy, and I guess now we're going to pass things over to Raviv, who is going to give a bit of a live demo of DotDefender and how some of the functions work. I think this is a new version of the software too, so that should be cool. Raviv, do you want to introduce yourself and start taking us through this? I'm just going to hand you the presenting powers here.
Sure. So, hi everyone, my name is Raviv Raz. I'm the product manager at Applicure Technologies, and I'm just generally into application security. I'm the author of some open source security and counter security tools. I write a blog about attacks and countermeasures, so you can read all about it. And today I'm going to show you the new versions of our software, both the DotDefender web application firewall and Applicure central management software, which provides central monitoring and change management for remote web servers that run DotDefender. And basically, DotDefender as a web application firewall inspects HTTP and HTTPS traffic, meaning everything that goes into web applications. It's implemented as a filter or a module in the web server, meaning that you only install a minor addition to the web server process itself. And the control is over web for everything. And our new version is also offering a full functional web service API, meaning that anything you see in our product's user interface can be plugged into hosting user portals and online systems, and this can be connected to ticketing systems and client relation management systems and all that stuff over standard SOAP requests. So the news here is that our products are open for very rapid integration within standard environments. Hopefully you can see my screen. This is where you see the security events accumulate in DotDefender using Firefox to reach the management console. You can see distribution of the attack types. You can drill into one attack event and see the whole story in here. You can see what was sent by the attacker, and you can see the problematic pattern that triggered this block highlighted in the log view. The security policy can be separated into different policies for different shared sites on the same server. You can switch it on and then switch it off for every site. You can just configure everything you like under one profile and just have the rest of the websites work by the same policy. Generally, we're talking about several mechanisms of security that work in parallel. We have the signatures, the signature knowledge base that covers most of the automatic tools that are used by hackers, such as the Accunetic scanner, if I can just show you. For instance, this is a very popular software that allows its users to find vulnerabilities very, very quickly in large web applications. And there's roughly thousands of attacks that it knows how to launch. DotDefender copes with these kind of tools, and also with human hackers who work manually and don't create the same signature every time, okay? Which is an issue that's a little harder to detect than automatic tools. So in addition to the signatures, we've added hundreds of pattern matching rules that look for hacking activities by spotting small hints that accumulate to be suspicious. For instance, you have the SQL injection category that protects against breaches into databases at the back end of web applications. We have additional support for upload file inspection, whereas you can define whatever location you have for uploading files, and you can restrict the files that you load there to be pictures only, and you can even scan the contents of the files and disallow specific keywords within the file's contents. DotDefender allows you to mask whatever server is underlined, and you can, for instance, just remove the server header, or you can replace it to be something else. In case it's Linux, we can turn it into Windows by reporting the end client that it's an IIS server. So this is very helpful to confuse the end client's In case it's a hacker, a human hacker, or an automatic tool, their job becomes a lot harder when they don't know what they're facing at the other end. DotDefender can also limit the load of traffic that goes into one website. We call this mechanism session protection, so you can set a limit on the maximum number of requests that can come into one website. And in case someone violates this policy, they can be banned for as long as you like. What else? Okay. So this is just a general overview of version 4 of DotDefender, and moving on to our central management software. You can see the main dashboard that shows all the security events that are pulled from the web servers. This is done over HTTP as well, so there's no problem with any changes to your current environment. You can track the status, the security status of your web applications regardless of where they're situated geographically. You can see the accumulation of events here and their distribution by the attack type or by the attacker's source. You can quickly change the configuration of servers remotely. You can enable and disable the security on any server you like. And in case you'd like to replicate an existing policy from one server to another, you can just choose the source and then distribute it to the end servers. So if you've already configured a good policy for, say, WordPress, you can just grab it from one server and duplicate it to all the rest within a click of a button. You can also search for events from all your servers and then drill down just like you can on DotDefender itself. You can program scheduled reports to be sent to different accounts, meaning different end customers, based on their websites and the web servers that they own. You can look at the status of all the servers and the license usage and when it's about to expire. You can renew the license remotely, and there's an extensive user management system that takes care of grouping the end users, since this is a situation where hosting company customers could be directly viewing the data. You can limit their privileges to reading their own data, showing them their sites, their servers, or allowing some administrative users to actually change the configuration of the web server. So all of this is exposed via an API, like I said at the beginning, and you can, some good examples of using this API would be to pull the data from central management's database and use it to aggregate it to some security management system, or automatically adding attacker IPs that tend to appear over and over again in your adding those addresses to your network firewall. All that kind of stuff can be done using this API remotely, of course. We'll be publishing a new site with a knowledge base and examples for using this API. That's pretty much what I wanted to say.
Okay. So, Raviv, I've got a couple of questions here. We had a question about whether the charts that are being displayed in central management here, whether those are Silverlight charts.
No, this isn't Silverlight. It's I think we've been using some OEM component, and it's not Silverlight. I think it's either Flash or some jQuery plugin.
Okay, and then this may have been answered by your wrap up there, but they also asked if near the beginning of your demo, you started talking about how the API could be used to launch tickets. can you maybe give some information about, what kind of information can be passed by the API or via the API?
Right. Well, for instance, here I'll just tell you. Every rule that triggers an alert here is assigned a severity level. Okay. So you could build a mechanism where alerts over a certain severity level that was predefined will be inserted into a ticketing system, for the network operations center. Was that what you're looking for?
I mean, I couldn't say for sure if it answered if it's sort of satisfied the asker, but I'm sure he can follow up afterwards, or it certainly was more information. So why don't we wrap up the demo with that? Thanks very much, Raviv, and I will hand things back to Andy, but I will we'll pass the presentation over to or the speaking role over to Brian, and he can tell us a bit about I guess how they're using DotDefender at hosting.com. Brian?
Sure. Thanks, Liam. I'm Brian Reboyne. I'm the Vice President of Operations with hosting.com, which is also formerly known as Host My Site. And we've been using DotDefender since about February of 2009, so we've been using it for over a year now. The product came to us actually up through our support tech staff. One of our support techs who specialize in dealing with compromises found the product, contacted Applicure, talked to DotDefender, and had a chance to meet with Andy and a couple other folks, Yakov from DotDefender, and it was a very impressive product right off the bat. It looked easy to use. It seemed to be very intuitive in terms of what it did, and it was also a very nice complementing product to our other security sets of products. And so we decided we're going to give it a try. We found that it was very easy to use. It was very easy to install. As a matter of fact, we install it automatically. We don't have to do any type of manual installs. And it just gets right installed very easily onto all of our dedicated and all of our cloud products. We actually deploy it in monitor mode on every dedicated server and also every cloud VM that we have, unless the customer opts out for it. And we do that for a variety of reasons. One, in monitor mode, it allows us to better troubleshoot issues. So even if the customer is not paying for DotDefender and using it in any type of protection, in the event that the customer environment is being attacked, we have it set up so that the email digest will go and contact our support staff and let us know proactively, to a certain degree, that there is an environment that's being under attack. And at that point, we can take action as opposed to letting the environment get completely hacked and it comes into just a huge mess in your network, as probably everybody knows. It creates a lot of support for everybody. It can also create problems for other customers in your network in terms of a server getting owned and turning itself into a DDoS attacking machine. This allowed us to be more proactive in getting in front of those issues, and DotDefender allowed us to do that. From the customer perspective as well, it turned into its own sales tool. The fact that we installed it on every product that we could, even in monitor mode, and the customer said, I don't think I need that. I think my code's fine. I've never had a problem before. There's something that Andy Mahler said when we first met him, is it's not a case of if you're going to get attacked, it's more of a case of when. And do you want to know or just want to be left in the dark about that? And we would tell that to the customer, and they'd say, well, I'm going to take my chance. But eventually, yes, they would get some type of attack, whether it's a SQL injection attack or what have you. And we will go to the customer and say, DotDefender notified us that this was happening on your server. This is going on right now. For $55 a month, we can stop this for you. And that became a very easy sell. And that made the product extremely sticky. So customers that weren't very interested in getting it, thought that it wasn't worth the money, suddenly decided, I need this, and I need this for every server I get. And it turned into a very nice value add, the fact that we just put it on there from a monitor mode perspective. And then also it made it very easy for us to deploy in terms of protection mode, because it was just a license key switch. It wasn't a complete new reinstall. All we had to do is swap the license key out to Central Manager. Like I said before, it's very easy to deploy. Since our tech staff brought it to us, they did a nice job in terms of vetting it and looking at it before they even brought it up to my attention. And we found it was a very easy product for us to deploy. We try to deploy everything in an automated fashion, so it makes it easy for us to bring on staff and do deployments from a provisioning process. And DotDefender was very easy to be able to slip right into our custom provisioning process. The way our customers have been using it, they've used it obviously in a protection mode, and it satisfies PCI compliance requirements, but they've also been using it to fine-tune their code. So they're able to use it as a way to harden their own code. They basically allow the hackers to come in and try to hack their site, and then they can go and optimize their code and optimize the website and make it run better. We also see that DotDefender brings load down somewhat to a minute degree, but it still does because it's blocking all these nonsensical attacks. It allows the web server and the application to serve its intended purpose as opposed to just answering every request that comes in. We've also been using it, obviously, in terms of our account management. So our account managers look at DotDefender when they go to do an account review with our customers, and they say, here's what we're seeing in terms of your environment. And it's a nice launching point in terms of talking to other security products. So if you have customers that have firewalls, DotDefender is an excellent complementing product to that. You explain how the firewall is a network protection device, and this is an application device. And so for us, it's been a great tool from a tech support perspective. It prevents support, allows us to be more proactive in terms of preventing any type of long-term damage to customers' environment. It saves us money in terms of unplanned work from a tech support perspective, and the product practically sells itself. And once customers get onto it, every time they spin up another environment that's web-facing, they automatically just click on the DotDefender option, and it gets added to their invoice. So with that, I'll kick it back over to you, Liam.
Okay. I'm curious. When you're trying to sell DotDefender to somebody, is there a real difference in sort of selling somebody? I guess I was talking to somebody about. This was about sort of DDoS protection products, but they were saying that it's sort of like selling a fire extinguisher in the sense that, somebody who's had a fire really understands the need for a fire extinguisher, but it's, you have to do a little more education when you're selling to somebody who hasn't necessarily been hacked yet.
Right. Yeah, and that's the case, and I think kind of more the analogy is, at least in the way we do it, we can almost think of as DotDefender in the way that we use it as kind of like your fire alarm in the monitor mode. So the fire will go off, and you'll get a lot of bells and whistles, but it doesn't put the fire out. You almost think of the product as like you can buy it, you can have it for free in the fire alarm mode, or would you rather have fire suppression? So it's going to alarm and protect you at the same time. So it'll say you were hacked, and oh, by the way, we stopped it. And this is the vulnerability that you have. So, and that's how we position it when we talk to customers. So it's a case of, would you rather be alerted and prevented, or do you just want the alert? And most people say, yeah, I want to be protected. And we say, well, for the cost of this, it's well worth the investment. When you think about it, our price point is about the $55 a month price point. However, when you take a look at the cost of what that is over a year compared to how much somebody would invest in completely rebuilding their environment, or what the cost would be for a customer in the event that they had a breach of security and lost data, very critical data, be it credit card information, social security information, then the cost of whatever you're charging for Applicure becomes very minute in terms of the protection that it provides. And when you lay that scenario out in front of a customer and they start thinking that through their mind about, wow, I could really be at risk, even though I think I'm okay, it's much better to know that I'm okay, and DotDefender provides that type of security.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Can you give us a sense of how you charge for DotDefender, or how you break it down?
It was just a flat fee, and it's a per month, and so I know Andy has a pricing schedule, so it depends on volume, and ours, we don't have any type of price stakes in terms of a customer. If a customer has 1 server or 10 servers or 1 VM or 10 VMs, we basically just charge a flat fee across that, so we made it a very simple sales model. We didn't discount it because we didn't feel the product was needed to be discounted. We thought it was a very fair price for what we priced the product at, and we explained it to the customer, and we have not really had any type of pushback from customers saying, I don't think it's worth that, especially when it turns out to be, once you start getting those digests and once you start seeing those reports and logging into the management console and seeing what it's protecting, you realize that you're getting more than protection than you probably are paying for, especially if you consider we charge for firewalls about $100 to $150 a month. This really is an awesome security product, especially for the price. And then when you look at products that are comparable to it, you really realize what kind of value you're getting.
Okay, thanks, Brian. At this point, we're gonna take things back to Andy, who has some information about the sort of business model for application security. And Andy, before you start, I would like to mention to you that we've had a couple of questions about sort of the licensing model that you do, whether it's per site, per server, and you know how much can that be split up? Is there a limit per excuse me, is there a limit if you're using shared sites on a server? Is there a limit to how many sites can be on the server?
And the answer to that is absolutely not. We actually price it out on a per server basis. So whether it's a dedicated server or it's really on a per IIS or per Apache basis. So if you've got those two, if you've got that in a virtual, it's on a per virtual server, or it's a per dedicated server, or if it's a shared server, it's the shared server. There's no limit to the number of websites on that particular server. And just to give you an example of what some of our other partners are doing that have shared models, what they will do is they will buy a license for the particular server, and you know, from us, and then they will then charge either, we've got two different ways that they do it at that point. They either give it away because they see the value in what Brian was saying, it reduces their support costs, so they feel like it's it pays for itself right away, or they will actually add another buck or two to each website who opts for it. And again, through the central management console that Raviv showed, you can send specific reports on a particular individual website to those people automatically at a periodic basis. So every day if you want to send them, or every week or month, or however you want to set it up, it's all customizable through the central management console. So you can imagine the guys that do have the shared servers with maybe 300 sites on them, and if they're charging $1 to those guys, they're getting $300 back, and you heard Brian say that they're getting $55. So there's a lot of room there to match up with your business model, whatever works best for you. We've done a lot of working with our partners to find out what works with them, and they've told us what they would like, and we've incorporated that. So both from a business standpoint as well as a technical standpoint. I think a lot of the stuff that you saw from Raviv obviously showed where we're trying to take the labor out of as much of this as possible. Automate, automate, automate is the way to go. We understand that's where hosting companies and our partners can make their profit, is by doing that. We support, getting to this slide now, as I said, we support the dedicated cloud and shared environments. We run on Windows and Linux. I like to say the multi-level environment support for resellers. So if there's any hosting providers out there with that do have resellers, you can give them just their view into central management in a read-only mode, as Raviv was showing that as well. All sorts of tools for marketing and demand generation, and as I said, it's a low operational cost. The business model, real quick, there's no upfront investment, there's no minimum, you don't pay us an upfront fee, and it's a pay as you grow. So as your business grows, you know, at the end of the month, you tell me, or actually in this release, we'll be able to know how many licenses you've got in protect mode, and that's what we invoice you for. Again, trying to take the labor out of it as much as possible, and through central management and everything else, you'll be able to verify those numbers and licenses, etc. And again, just to finish up from my perspective, we like to say this is a secure business move. It's a solution to a growing need. As Gartner had mentioned, the 75% of attacks are through the application nowadays. It's a lot of stealth-like attacks, so people don't know that it's out there. As both Stacy and Brian had mentioned, the monitor-only mode, being able to get out there and try it and show people that they're actually getting hacked, or that they're that the attempts are there, is there. It's a scalable and low-maintenance solution for you. As again, we're trying to take the labor out and automate as many places as we can to make it as easy for you and your support teams and your operational teams. And we hope this fits your business model. You know, you got the only people in the world who can sell DotDefender on a monthly basis is hosting providers. We don't do it as a company, and in fact, if you wanted to come and buy the product itself, it's well over $4,000 to buy it. But in a hosting environment, as Brian said, you know, $55. The break even is never. So it's a great deal for people, and really has them go to the host, the hosting people, as opposed to coming to us. We want zero channel conflict there. And then, so for you, offering DotDefender, of course, it increases the revenue and profitability. It reduces your support costs, and because you're providing a valuable product to your current portfolio, an additional product, it improves customer retention. Your customers are not getting hacked, and you're also providing, through reports, you're showing them the value on a monthly basis or a weekly basis, and they love to see that. So again, just to finish up, web application security, it's good for your customer security, it's good for your bottom line. Liam?
Okay, thanks, Eddie. We're gonna take things back to the Q&A period here. We've got a few questions submitted already, so I'll get to those shortly. And what we're going to do is, I'm gonna pass to another slide that has contact information for the folks for the panelists in a moment, so that you'll be able to follow up in private if you prefer. But if you like, you can submit your questions now, and we'll try to make sure to get to all of them. So I guess the first question that I wanted to start with was for Raviv. Just when you started speaking there, you mentioned that you had a security blog. I thought maybe you might want to give out the URL for that in case people wanted to check that out too. I meant to ask you that while you were speaking.
Yeah, well, I think we copy some of it into Applicure site as well, but it's just look for chapters in web security. Okay.
And I got another question that you're probably best suited to answer here, but somebody was asking about, and I think we talked about this on Monday a little bit, was I guess, well, the question is how often is the knowledge base updated, and maybe you could talk a little bit about sort of by what means it's updated and from what sources.
Okay, well, as for the signatures, we update them from public repositories, public signatures, different websites that contain, for instance, bad user agent signatures of bad software. We also run into some worms and some new tools, and we keep ourselves up to date with the new tools that are out there. And so there's an automatic updating mechanism that can apply new signatures into DotDefender without any interference to the web server's activity. And as for the pattern matching rules, this happens more rarely because the hacking patterns tend to look the same. When you talk about SQL syntax, it tends to use the same tokens over and over again, but once in a while we see a signature evasion technique that's meant to bypass web application firewalls, and so we harden all our rules and we issue an update. And in any case, in minor and major releases, we always include the most up-to-date signatures and rules.
Okay. I've got another question here that maybe, Raviv, you might want to answer this, or Andy might want to answer. It's in a shared hosting environment. Does the end user, this would be the hosting provider's customer, do they have access to a control panel that would allow them to manage the settings on their website, or is that something that the host would have to manage for them?
Well, Andy, you want to take that from what you see out there?
Well, you can offer that up through, I believe it's the next release, the current release, or the release that will be coming out actually tomorrow, which is version 4, through central management, can't we, I'm actually, Raviv, I think you might be better to answer this, but through the central management, we can give them, the hoster can give the username and password to them and allow them to get into their individual website on that particular server. Isn't that the way that version 4 will allow it through central management?
Well, yes, but first of all, we've already integrated DotDefender into cPanel, which is a very popular control panel. So there's already a user privilege separation in cPanel, and DotDefender uses that. So every user of cPanel can see their own websites and change the configuration that relates to their security policy. But version 4, like I said, central management is also purposed for the end users. So you can actually put a filtered view on what they should see, and you can manage the users inside central management, or you can use the API and sort of integrate it with your existing user management systems. And you can also perhaps integrate open flash charts, for instance, in your user portal that are connected, that are sending AJAX calls to central management. That's also possible. So my guess is that a lot of hosting companies already have some user portal that they've worked hard on, and with this product they can either take the user interface as it is and plug it into that portal, or just make the calls and wire everything together themselves. Anything you see in the user interface is also accessible via web service calls. So you can always grab the numbers of attacks. Every call is also has to include the username. So the data that's returned is also relevant to that user only. Okay, numbers of attacks, getting, one call can get you the current status of all attacks on your server, changing rules, anything you'd like to expose is already there in the API.
Okay, I think that answers the question pretty well. I mean, there's no built-in function for end user or for shared hosting control panels, but it's something that you can sort of build in pretty easily, or there are functions for in existing things. I guess another question I had was, and maybe Andy, you could answer this a bit. I guess Brian, you guys have been working with it for a while. You might be able to provide some insight, but I guess typically, is there a number you're seeing in terms of when a hosting provider deploys DotDefender and starts offering it to all its clients? Is there sort of a percentage rate of adoption?
Sure,
Maybe.
I can answer that. We're seeing about in terms of a pickup in the protection mode, is we're getting a 30% penetration rate to customers that don't opt out of getting it. So we're seeing 30% of our customers that we install protection mode convert over to monitor mode convert over to the paid protection mode. And it's also actually also in line with how many customers purchase firewalls from us as well. So we think that's probably correlated.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. So in your case, 30, a person could probably make a good rough estimate based on the percentage of customers that purchase firewalls?
Yeah. I think if you're selling managed firewall services of any type, you can pretty much bet that you should be able to match that by selling DotDefender to that same group, and you should get a really high adoption rate. We also did this too completely through support. So we initially, because this was a support run product, so we launched it without having any type of marketing material originally, and we continue to push it through the support process and the account management process too. I imagine that if someone really wanted to push through marketing and also making sure that you utilize the marketing materials that Andy provides and Applicure provides, which is absolutely excellent marketing materials, and they also have great videos they can link to as well, you can probably push that higher very easily.
Okay, awesome. This is something that Stacy sort of touched on earlier on. Maybe Stacy, you could start out answering this one. If anyone else has something to add afterward, that'd be great. And obviously this is something that will vary according to the type of hosting being provided. And I think that there's probably a pretty clear distinction between hosts and their customers in terms of opinion. But is there a sort of generally agreed upon sense of where the responsibility lies for protecting a site like that? I guess I know you had said that sometimes customers say it's the host's job, or they get mad when their site gets hacked, whereas the hosts feel like we don't support your applications, I think is what you said. But can you sort of talk about that issue?
Yeah, it's certainly uncommon for a hosting company to provide application-level support or code-level support. And even companies that provide kind of application-level support really don't like to get in digging into a client's code. So while there's a few specialized companies out there that that will do both supporting someone's application and their code and their hosting, it's very uncommon. And it's if you think about it, I mean it's really kind of two different skill sets. There's this traditional hosting skill set of keeping a server configured, up and running, highly available, those types of things, and then there's the coding skill set of a programmer. And if you think about it, while a company like MaximumASP, we just support the Windows platforms, we can staff fairly easily for that. But then if you look at all of the development environments that you could potentially have on a Windows platform, there's everything from classic ASP to ASP.NET to C#, and then Java. There's just the amount of staffing we would have to be able to do that, or any hosting company would have to be able to do it and do it well, would be just tremendous. And so then you'd have to pass along the cost for full code support, and to be honest, it's not something many clients would be willing to pay for unless they were having some sort of issue. And it's far more cost effective to solve that issue with a tool that costs $55 a month like DotDefender than it is to just build that in as increased cost for everybody across the board. It's does that answer your question, William?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you had said that while it's difficult for a hosting provider to support everybody's code, you find that sometimes a customer will will be nevertheless will be upset when their site gets hacked and looking for somebody to blame. But you said that you've had experiences where you've said, hey, here's something that can tell you why your site got hacked and help you stop it.
Yeah, and when you talk to a client that's having an issue, I mean, often clients will misdiagnose issues. They'll say, I'm having a network problem, and you look at the network and you realize that there isn't a network problem. The network's up. It never will just one client call in and say, I'm having a network problem. If there was a network problem, the phones would be ringing off the hook. So clients will call in and say, I'm having a problem with X, Y, or Z, because they don't necessarily understand the back office hosting environment. But that's what they pay us for. They pay us to be experts in servers. And so what will happen is clients will they'll see an issue, and they'll in some cases they'll say, well, I bought a firewall from you, so that means that you're in charge of all my security. And but a firewall doesn't protect you against code vulnerabilities. So you run into issues where there's lots of room for clients to misinterpret what we're responsible for. So ultimately, it's a tool like this that can help prove to a client that what the issue is, and then B, you can also use a tool like this to solve that issue. So it really is something that works quite well for clients.
Awesome. So I don't know. I think just about everybody would probably be able to weigh in on this next question. But basically, I'd like to talk about previous to deploying something like DotDefender. How might a hosting company or how might a website operator go about securing a hosting company might, let's say, go about securing customer sites, or how might a site operator go about securing their own sites? Is this something where you'd go through piece by piece yourself, or you'd be using some sort of competing solution? Maybe Andy, you want to start with that?
Sure. you know, I think what we've heard is in the past, people would do code review and use a product like Accunex, what Raviv had mentioned, if they were serious about it and they were interested whether their code was secure. They would use something like that, do a code review, find the vulnerabilities, then they'd have to go fix them. And that's really where the problem lies, because in the time that before you fix them, you're vulnerable and you can be hacked and people can come in and steal data. And and that can get very costly, because if you own the code, that's one thing. You're still paying your developers to take care of that. But if you don't own the code, or somebody else has developed it for you, you've got to go pay them to fix the code and do that. Maybe you don't even have access to that. So it became a very costly way, and as I said, you're vulnerable until you fix it, and then and as new attacks come about, you would always be vulnerable to new attacks if you hadn't done that. So it's an ongoing process to do that. So what people have turned to is a web application security firewall such as us, and doing that because we're there 24/7, always protecting that. We're independent of the applications there. But that's what we've been told. I don't know if Brian or Stacy has any perspective from a hosting perspective on that.
Guys?
Yeah. What you know, prior to DotDefender and prior to Applicure, if somebody wanted to harden their code, basically, you know, there's a whole litany of other services and products that you can go out there and look at in addition to doing a code review. But if you're a small developer, if you're a one-man shop or a really small development shop, you're probably not following very strict code review practices. You probably do a lot of rapid development and get it shipped out the door because you need to move on to the next customer. And so what we saw, you know, people that were kind of on the medium to enterprise side of the customers would do things like get an IDS or an IPS device and put that in front along with their firewall. They would go to a securities company, so like Trustwave, for example, and contract with them to do a quarterly intrusion penetration professional services engagement, and contract them to basically hire their skunkworks department to see if they can hack your site. And by the time you get into all these things, you've spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. As a matter of fact, before Applicure came along in DotDefender, if you took our security products that we had at hosting.com, in most cases what you're paying for your security products was a lot more than what you're probably paying on the servers that you're protecting. And then again, all those things are also very complex. That took a lot of time to set these things up. You often had to put them into a learning mode, so while they're in learning mode, you're often blocking your own application from doing its job, or it wasn't fully protected. And every time you made a change, you'd have to start that learning mode all over again. So it was very arduous. Security was very difficult. And it's one of the reasons why PCI exists today is because people didn't want to go through all these things. They didn't have the time or the resources or the discipline to do a code review, and they didn't have the money to be able to invest in an IPS and IDS and the quarterly third-party security audits. And Applicure came in with DotDefender and very elegantly and very efficiently and basically solved a lot of these problems.
That might be a great note for us to end on, because we're at just about an hour. Thanks to everyone for attending and for submitting questions. Of course, I'd like to thank Andy, Stacy, Raviv, and Brian for sharing their experiences and their insight on what I think is a pretty interesting subject. Before I go, I'd like to let everyone know that there's going to be an archived copy of this webinar up on the WER website sometime next week. It will be posted along with all of our other past webinars at thewer.com/webinars.